is a lot more practical. Our initial formation programs continue to become strong, and the formation of brothers who are called to do the formation has been very much a part of the last 6 years. Our mission advancement in Congo, with the addition of a network of schools in Fungarume and Kipushi. Our mission advancement in Kenya is something to celebrate, with the opening of the new school buildings in Lodwar, St. James, the inauguration of St. Xavier High School in Bungoma, and the expansion of Theodore James Riken Rescue Center for street kids in Bungoma. The renewed commitment of the United States to our sponsored schools, the growth of our associate program in the United States and in Bolivia, the development of our Xaverian mission in Pignon and Bois de Bouquet in Haiti, with the return of Brother Vincent and the addition of Brother Adolphe. The congregational transformation program and process that the General Council attempted to build. By that, the General Council attempted to build an ongoing renewal program for our community, especially a growing awareness of the Founders' Charism. During my recent retreat, reflecting on Riken's life and sharing my prayer with him, I came to a clearer understanding of his spiritual journey and a real affection for him and what he means to us as brothers. I find him very unpretentious, a man of simple faith, humility, compassion. His life had painful moments, the loss of his father, the loss of his beloved grandfather, the breakup of the family, religious oppression, many trials and failures as he tried to realize his vision for the congregation. The grace of humility, I believe, opened our founder's heart to turn from sinfulness to receive the warmth of God's unconditional love. I believe our founder was impelled by his experience of Jesus' love for him to reach out with passion and to take risks in order to manifest what Jesus did, his Father's compassion to all people, but especially for those in need, the poor and the marginalized. Our founder realized that the continual conversion we need in order to be followers of Jesus requires that we enter into an intimate relationship with God through time spent each day in solitude and prayer. That's the source of our charism. For me, then, the critical issue in this chapter is, will we let the spirit of our founder's charism open our hearts, capture our imaginations, so we can see ourselves, a small community, as Jesus sees us? What is our love of Jesus impelling us to be, impelling us to do together for the church and the world? How are we being impelled by our founder's charism? I just give some impressions on the three focal points of this chapter: the charismatic identity and evangelization, our desire for shared leadership, our experience of community mission, human, material, and financial resources. Our charismatic identity and evangelization. Cardinal Bras de Avis, prefect of the Congregation of Religious, in a recent interview emphasized that to renew a congregation, we need to focus on charism, not projects, to return to the fundamental message of our founder. Cardinal Brasavis said that the congregation needs to create, and I hope this is what we're able to do in chapter, create the conditions in which the charism can thrive. It is my hope that during the chapter we can give serious reflection and prayer to this need. He also mentioned in his interview that the challenge for the South, for Africa, Asia, and Latin America, is discerning the authenticity of the call to religious life. While the challenge in the North America and Europe, is not to lose belief in the possibility of renewing your religious community, your religious institute. And I think we have both tendencies in our congregation. At the core of our charismatic identity, I believe, is our personal communal experience of God's unconditional love that impels us today to manifest God's compassion through word and deed to all whom we meet on the journey of life. In the words of Pedro Arrupe, there is nothing more practical than finding God as Riken found him. Not in his head, but in his heart. There is nothing more practical than falling in love in the same quite absolute and final way that our founder fell in love with God. That is the core of his gift to us. That is the gift we have received and are exhorted to give to others. That is the gift we need to keep alive. Where do I think we are in the charismatic identity? Since the chapter of 2007, I feel we have made great progress in coming to an understanding of the charism that calls us to a deeper intimacy with Jesus and to integrate the lives of Mary and Martha. That is, to integrate our contemplative prayer and our ministerial actions. I feel that is also our major challenge. At times I have the impression and the feeling that the time needed for solitude and contemplative prayer is still taking second place to our ministerial actions. Transformation is slow. That was 14 years ago. And as Gandhi said, we have to be the change we want, that we desire. It takes time for transformation. Pope Francis, in the homily for Pentecost, shared the following. Our mission is to witness that God is a God of love. The signs of our times indicate a world that desperately needs people committed to witness that God is love and to minister that love to others. Our founder did that so intensely. The question that often arises when I look at the charismatic identity and impulse is about ministering directly to the poor and the marginalized. For many of us, it's a very disturbing question because it calls into question what we are presently doing, especially if it's not in ministry to the poor. Realistically, I do not feel that many American brothers are able to make that option directly in direct ministry to the poor for reasons of age, reasons of physical health. However, age and health do not exempt us from connecting in some significant way, and that's what my hope is, with our brothers or others who are directly ministering to the poor and the marginalized. It's also my hope that when I look at the congregation, there's so much goodwill that we see. We see it here in this assembly. My greatest hope is that among us, we will have a critical number of brothers who will have the vision, the courage, and the will to make that option for the poor. And that may take time to reflect about, may take time to plan and to implement. The poor will show you, and I know this from my experience in Bolivia, the poor will show you the face of God with great joy. They will show you their simplicity in life, their vulnerability, their simple faith, their acceptance and kindness. They minister the gospel in their lives, and sometimes without knowing they're doing that. Our charism calls us all to witness that God is love, no matter where we are, no matter the circumstances of our ministry or whatever. An American philosopher by the name of Harold Whitman offers an answer to the perennial question that religious a lot of times ask themselves. What does the world need of me? What does the world need of us? He simply says, don't ask that question, but rather ask yourself, what makes me come alive? And then go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And I feel for us the question is, how does God's unconditional love, the core of our charism, impel me or us to come alive? And what would our world be like if we all come alive with the unconditional love of God? A question that Pope Francis asked during his homily on Pentecost is, let us ask ourselves today, are we really open to God's surprises? And I think that has a special meaning in the chapter. We never know where a chapter is going to move. Let me talk briefly about some of God's surprises that I experienced, at least over the last 2 years, as we came together pretty regularly, monthly, as part of our transformation process in the United States. One of the surprises is the expressed desire for most of our brothers to continue to meet regularly. And I say most, it wasn't everyone, and we respect that. A surprise also was the appreciation of the brothers that they expressed because they were able to tell their story to other brothers and they were listened to. Another surprise I had was getting to know brothers on a deeper level, people I have known for years, but I really knew nothing about them. And I can remember a little incident where one of those brothers was just a name to me. And he shared something very personal in a group. And I wrote him a little note saying, hey, I really appreciate it, you're trusting us. The next time we got together, he was very emotional. He says the first time in his life, anyone in the congregation said something like that to him. So it's revelatory. And I think it's part of the transformation we're going through. It's part of our charism. I was surprised at the depth of the personal sharing. The realization that each of us is responsible for the mission and life of our community. A desire to be involved in that. And I'm in admiration, and I've had the privilege of visiting Kenya, Congo, Belgium. I have not been to Haiti, and all the regions in the United States. Overwhelming fidelity that most of our brothers have to our charism and their responsibility for our way of life. I also have a number of concerns. When I look at community, at times we struggle with trusting each other. And this is true in all regions, and it has been expressed so, whether in Congo, Kenya, Belgium, or the United States. And I wonder at times, is that a fact that we really don't know much about each other? I sense at times, too, that community is not always meeting the intimacy needs or the belonging needs of some of our brothers. And as a result, I think some brothers deal with the natural loneliness that you can experience in life, even in a group, by establishing relationships, maybe improper relationships, outside of the community, or by behaviors that go directly against the vows, such as addictions, sexual behavior, a nightlife in bars, etc. And I'm not talking of a majority. I think the majority of our brothers are very faithful to the life. But we've had to deal with some very, very serious problems. And the question, I think, comes up, Dan referenced it this morning, about the release of our names of our brothers who have abused minors sexually. The week before I came here, I had to deal with a lot of initial fallout from that and spent hours on telephones. It was very, very difficult, gut-wrenching to listen to the pain of some of the gentlemen who are now 60 years old, 62 years old. And the one question that really went right to my heart was, why didn't the brothers who he lived with know this was going on and stop it? And I think that says something about the difficulties we have in really giving ourselves over fully to community. I think if we are committed to the charism, to truly following in the steps of Jesus, through the evangelical counsel of poverty, chaste celibacy, and obedience, we have to be aware of the challenges that we're going to experience in community and do something with it. I think community life is always challenged by a tendency to privatization. Don't ask me what I'm doing. Don't ask me where I'm going. That works against a community. It's always challenged by individualism. It can be challenged by addictions, and it can be challenged by materialism. None of those challenges make community less important. What I think it does do, it says maybe we need to continue formation in terms of how do you live effectively in a community? How do you affirm, as our fundamental principles say, how do you affirm and also support and then confront brothers when something is not right? Just a couple of words on mission and resources. I'm amazed at the explosion in growth in Africa, in both Congo and Kenya. We have 3 new centers of activity in Kenya, and I think there's 8 schools in the Fungurume network, plus the school in Kipushi. My caution there, what I see as a concern, is we need some real tight planning for mission development, mission advancement that doesn't exceed our financial resources, but even more critical, it doesn't exceed our personnel resources. We want to have communities that are vibrant in each of those places. So I think there is, going forward, if we look at the future, that need to basically plan and type planning, where we're looking at names as well as places and dollar signs or the costs for those things. I only have one comment on governance. I have nothing to offer in terms of what I would rely on the chapter to really deal with this issue. But I find the present model untenable, where we're asking the General Superior, the Vicar General, the Council to really serve as general leadership, the overview of the whole congregation, but then also to serve as provincials. And the General can wind up being the provincial of Belgium, Kenya, Congo, and the United States, depending on the urgency of the issue or the question. I think that is somewhat untenable model. I don't know what the alternative is. We can talk about more canonical regions. I'm hoping that the chapter will at least start addressing the question and suggest models. That I think the key to this chapter is in the first goal, the charismatic identity and impulse. So whatever the structure is, it needs to be able to promote very clearly given to the different needs of the regions. It may not be one size-fits-all approach. As we open the chapter, I think there's very clear, and I thank Father Philip and the January meeting, very clear direction on those three pages 69 to 72. The charismatic identity, the shared leadership, and I think that's not only shared leadership, but shared responsibility, and then the mission life and resources. I think that is really a clear area of direction for us to be moving and to come out at the end of the chapter with something that is very practical as well as practicable, that we can do it. Okay, thank you.
Merci, Frère Edouard.
Thank you, Brother Edward. Okay, it's 37 past 4. We can either take reactions. I'm not saying questions, I'm just saying quick reactions. Or we can have a short break, 10-15 minutes max, and then we come back. So those two options are on the table. Shall we have a break now? Or do we want to take quick reactions to what we've just heard and the state of the congregation? What do you think?
For me, I'd like some quiet, to be able to take some quiet time, rather than just a break in conversation, but rather some quiet time to reflect on what Ed has presented to us, and then maybe come back for some dialogue or discussion if that's appropriate.
Oui, nous pouvons prendre...
Okay, that's a valid option. Let's say 15 minutes. Personal reflection time, quiet time, and then we'll be back here for reactions and questions. Thank you.